Hi again, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Ask a Fractional Q&A. I'm Dave Bonfilio, and I'm here with the normal folks that I do this with, Corey Hanscom, Jillian Middlemark, and we have tried over the course of the last few months to begin to talk to other professionals who can help us understand how the fractional economy works and how it can fit into the broader business community. And so today we have a special guest. We have John Snow, and welcome, John.
Thank you, Dave, for having me today.
John and I are old friends. We've known each other a long time, but more relevant for this conversation is that John's been in private equity as the managing director of Quabbin Capital for 35 years. And so no one knows private equity better than John. And we're going to pick his brain today to figure out how we can sort of maybe understand better ways to help private equity do what they do, with companies. Okay, so John, let's start here. You buy a business and you decide, okay, what are we going to do with that business to create more value so that when we sell it, we make money? How much do you dig into the personnel of those companies, the salesperson, the finance, the CEO, the marketing, to make evaluations about what you've just bought?
Yeah, great question, Dave. I mean, we refer to it as leadership in all the categories you just mentioned. To quote a coach we both had, people are the most important thing, and business followed by the business model, in my humble opinion. We look to the leadership, and generally there's a rule of thumb that I learned many years ago that for every $10 million of revenue of sales, you want to have one good manager. And they tend to be a scarce commodity in the so-called lower middle market. The companies that we invest in would say $20 to $50 million of revenue. If you have a business that is ahead of that ratio, let's say they have 5 good managers and $30 million of revenue, that's a good thing. You want management to be out in front of a business, okay? You want management to be better than a business. That's always a good thing. Sometimes these businesses outgrow their management teams. That's not always good, but it's not a impossible problem. I mean, where the opportunity would come in, and I'm jumping a little bit ahead here, is to recruit selectively 1 or 2 managers to add to. And I'll just refer to the management team for now, the senior managers, okay? And then we can talk about going down the org chart a little bit, particularly in sales and marketing. Sales growth is the holy grail for private equity investment, okay? You can talk about valuations and IRRs and all that. None of that occurs, okay? No value gets created unless, in some cases with debt amortization, things like that, but more defensive growth. But the real growth, the real value creation comes from revenue and sales growth, okay? Generally speaking, most of the businesses that we see have good salespeople, particularly the CEO. It could be a founder, could be a family member. If they're not good salespeople, there's an opportunity there to compound their growth rates by, again, adding a good salesperson. Now, the tricky part is finding a good person to add and someone who's going to be, is going to fit in, because all these companies, every single company has a strong culture. And if they're not good for that culture, we call it organ rejection. We use a bit of a crude term, but they have, like, for example, we had a business that was in the library management category, very unique, very good business. We added a kind of a hotshot MBA to the management team, and it was a complete failure. Okay, you have to add people that add to a culture. Okay, and what we're looking for in addition to that is, I'll use another. I hate to use a buzzword, but performance culture. You need a performance culture to grow a business. Okay, a lot of these businesses that we see, and they're good businesses, are managed to support lifestyles, okay, particularly in families and occasionally with entrepreneurs. That's something, once you get into the private equity realm and you have outside capital in particular coming into a business, those investors, including ourselves, are going to hold management accountable for their performance. Management will give us a plan, including their sales plan, most importantly, their sales plan for the year. And then we're going to track it. Okay. We're going to push them, but we're going to support them at the same time. We're not going to micromanage them. We're not going to be going on sales calls and the like. We're going to provide leadership from the boardroom, but we're going to work. Management will give us their plan. Generally, we approve the plans, but then again, once we've established a plan and expectations for a year, we expect them to perform to that plan. Now, most of the time, it doesn't go according to plan. It's very, it was the old joke. Everyone has a plan until they get hit. Okay, markets change, sometimes for the better, sometimes not. For example, we have a media services business. It's very difficult to predict revenues or to forecast revenues. Having said that, they've done a very good job over the years of being consistent, and not just in year-to-year performance, but also in annual growth. So, and the thing about salespeople, they have a certain ability, in my opinion, no matter what they're working on, to give life to a product that might otherwise not be very interesting. Like I mentioned, that library management business was run by a husband and wife, wonderful couple, now retired. The husband, Frank, he just had a certain charm to him, and the customers or counties across the U.S. that hired them to come in and manage their library systems, they loved Frank because he had a nice way about himself, but he always kept his eye on the ball. He was always looking, okay, we did 19 million of revenue this year. We're trying to grow to 22, 23. This is a business that had a very long sales cycle, sometimes as long as 18 months, because there was a lot of politics involved in these hires. And but Frank had a nice way about himself. Again, he could present the case for hiring their firm. It was called Library Systems and Services, and show why it would lead to greater efficiencies. They could retain the current staff, for example. It wouldn't be a painful transition to an outside service provider. So those people tend to be few and far between, unfortunately, and you have to again, sometimes businesses grow in spite of themselves, and I'm trying to be respectful here, but again, I would say the sales function is far and away the most important one. I mean, we're financial people, okay? That's not, we've got that pretty much covered. But when you go into the marketplace and you're a small business, I'll think of we had a telecom supplier in Kansas City that we sold a few years ago. We went through 4 CEOs, okay? And it was a brutal process. And we finally landed a guy, Jerry Garrett, from a much, much larger competitor. And Jerry he's a lot like Frank. He was a guy he's every inch the business person. He could give life to otherwise rather dull products. They were enclosures for telecom parts, DSL cards and repeaters and things that weren't terribly exciting to talk about. But again, Jerry was just such a professional, and we put him in the lead seat. I mean, he was the CEO, and the results. It took a year or two, but then the results started to kick in. Jerry had great relationships in the marketplace, and this is a $25 million revenue business, 25 million, selling to enormous companies, Verizon, AT&T, they're just gigantic companies. And we're the old joke, minnows swimming amongst whales. So those people are hard to find. They're worth searching for. They're worth paying for. They're worth all the pain and hardship of making a change, which is very difficult. It's not difficult when you do it. When you make a leadership change, it's the lead up to that is difficult. So,
thank you, John. Those were great insights. I know that different PE firms might specialize in like one industry, or there's certain things that they're looking for companies to engage with. What do you specialize in, or who are you looking for in terms of companies?
Yeah, it's another great question, Corey. We're generalists, okay? And I say that because it's difficult. It was like I was at a panel this morning, and a woman there runs a PE firm that specializes in software, and we love software. We've done a couple of nice investments in software. It's pretty hard to dictate those outcomes and to specialize because it is a super competitive environment right now as an investor, and to get in, you've got to be a little lucky. Sometimes there's particularly a small investor. We're what's called a single family investment office. We don't have a large committed fund. We're very opportunistic. Okay, if we see a good situation, again, good people, good business model. We're three senior people in our firm, three partners. We've got a lot of experience. We've worked in a lot of different industries. So we like to think there's more in common between these different industries than not, particularly at the growth or the development level that we go in at. If it's a 20, 25, $30 million revenue business that's maybe outgrown its management team a bit, we call them the growing pains. That's when we like to get involved and help them manage that, because it can be difficult.
So, John, do you have advice or recommendations for people who are in the fractional space on how to connect with a PE firm, or how to, make themselves known to you, so that when you're looking for talent, those talent gaps, that you have kind of that network of fractionals that maybe you could lean on?
Sure. Well, Jillian, it's a lot like the way we hunt for deal flow. I mean, I spent a lot of time, my entire existence here, 35 years, we thrive on relationships. Okay. And it's not just when you need something, although we always need new business, but whether it's for us, we may be recruiting a capital partner or looking for a business to buy. And currently we're doing both. We have some of our own capital, but we also go to outside sources. We just keep reminding people of our existence. And that has paid off very nicely for us over the years. For example, when I'm traveling, I was in Minneapolis last week, as Dave mentioned. I'll go to see people, old friends. So we have a capital partner in Minneapolis. We've worked with quite a bit over the years. We don't have something for them right now, but we just like to, go do a courtesy call, remind them that we're out there. And then one day, when something good happens and we have a deal to show them, it's not a shot in the dark. Like they know that. They know we're out there. They said they'd like to work with us. So when that day comes, and it may take 6, 9, 12 months, maybe longer. I mean, we draw on relationships we've had for my entire time here.
Hey, John, what do you think is what's the level of awareness among the PE community of the fractional resource as an option for them?
Yeah, I think it's pretty good, Dave. I mean, it started more or less with the financial side, part-time CFOs. That's a big industry now. Marketing, there's a little bit of that not invented here syndrome, which as a financial person, I have all the respect in the world for marketing professionals and salespeople, and I separate the two a bit. I think there's a growing awareness. It's a lot of it comes down to affordability. Like if you have a slightly smaller business, let's say a $10 or $15 million, you probably can't afford the caliber talent that you need on a full-time basis, which makes all the sense in the world. So if you bring someone in on a part-time or a fractional basis, I mean, those economics work, okay? And then gradually maybe that becomes a full-time hire. I mean, we've spent a lot of time in the staffing industry. Now it's not at the level, these aren't professionals, these are more laborers, part-time labor. But it's the same concept where there's just a lot of efficiency in that, and people are always looking to achieve those efficiencies. It's not easy to do. But when it works, it's a nice thing.
Hey, John, thank you so much for giving us that insight around what's happening in private equity and how, the fractional folks that we all know might be able to connect to that world. Yeah. For those of you who are watching, if you want to participate in this conversation, let us know, and look for our LinkedIn page, Ask a Fractional. And we look forward to your continued engagement And so thanks very much. We'll see you soon.